Hello everybody, welcome to part 1 in a series of videos that is going to teach you guys how to play Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon by Awakened Realms. It's an amazing game, but it can be a little complicated. I've been keeping my eye on the Facebook group, and I've noticed a lot of people have been asking for a video to teach you guys how to play the game, for people who prefer having a video explanation or an audio explanation. Hopefully I can provide that for you. Like I said, this is going to be part 1. And one of the first things I want to teach you guys how to do is how to set up your character in Tainted Grail. Now, so the first thing you got to do is you want to, pick your character. So these are the couple of characters you can pick from in the game. They all have, the main differences is on their board, their energy, health, and terror, like all their kind of stats and how they're going to survive in this very rough world. These are all going to be very different depending on which character you pick. They also have special abilities that they have. They also all have a curse that comes along with them, something that negatively influences them, and that can kind of add to their personality. They all have different background and different stories behind who they are. So you really want to go through and just pick out someone that you really prefer. And just to keep in mind, I'm going to be explaining these rules as if you are going to play this game as a solo player, because that's mainly how I've been playing it. I will cover the rules in terms of the changes between playing as a solo player and playing with multiple people. But for right now, I'm gonna talk as if you're gonna be playing it solo. So I'm gonna choose this character Bior as kind of my demonstration character for you guys. Of note, so you saw those 4 characters. Most people also received this character as well. Now, a lot of people in the Facebook group have been asking, where's her character tile, or her tray? So there's the character tile. If you can see, Bior, this character tile for Bior actually comes out. So everyone received the character tile for this character, but no tray. That is okay. That's on purpose. This character is supposed to be able to slot into anybody's tray. That makes her very flexible. You can choose which stats you think are going to work for her. So you can put her in the blue tray. You can put her in the green tray like this. And that's just kind of her role as her character. So just a little PSA out there. I've seen a lot of people question why I didn't get a whole character tray for this character. But we're going to move on from there. So the first thing you want to do, like I said, is you want to pick your character. I'm going to choose this guy. The first thing you want to do is you're going to want to grab 2 of these red cubes and also this orange health marker. Okay? This is how you're going to keep track of kind of your life. So if you look here, you have the energy track. This is going to determine how many actions you take per turn. And I'm going to dive into that just a little bit later. Now, where you want to place your cube when you start off is you want to look for these red chevrons here around the 6, at least for this character. And you want to take your cube and you want to stick it right in there. And you're all set and ready to go for your energy. The next thing you want to do is you want to put your T-bar health marker at the very top, or where the red chevrons are, just like we did for energy, and it's going to be placed right here. And I'm going to explain that, why it's shaped like this, in just a moment. Next, you want to take a red cube and you want to place it in your terror track, and same thing as the other 2. There's these 2 little red chevrons inside of the slot. Place it there. As far as I know, every character is going to start at 0 terror. So just a quick explanation of all this. Like I said, your energy determines how many actions you can take on your turn. So whenever you take an action, it's going to go down by 1 and down another, so on and so forth. I'm going to get more into that in a later video. These bonus slots up here in the green, you'll be able to use those when you'll probably get like there's probably items out there that'll be like, hey, you start the day with an extra energy, and then it would bump up to this at the start of every turn. But just ignore these for now. It'll be explained as you kind of play. It'll kind of clue you in, let you get more energy. The other thing down here is there's these 2 red slots down here, and if you look right here, it actually says exhausted right here. So once again, that's something I'll get into just a little bit later, but when you take too many actions on your turn and you become exhausted, you'll regain less energy at the start of your turn. But I'll get into that just a little bit more as well. Now, this is actually the really important one. So this is your HP marker. This keeps track of how much health you have. If this reaches down to 0, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. But the important thing is, because of there's these two bar heres, it's important to note that you cannot have more energy than you have health. So let's say, for example, you get into an encounter and you're at 6 HP and you take 2 damage. 1, 2. Now, your energy can't be above your HP in this case, so you actually have to drop your energy down to 4 as well. It's very important to remember that. The other thing is your terror. If you receive too much terror, which is a bad thing, it's kind of like your mind being destroyed. If it goes above your HP bar, like so, there's going to be a negative effect upon you in diplomatic and combat encounters. Another thing that I'll talk about in a later video. Let's see. So that's all your basic stats here. The last two things that I want to go over real quick when it comes to your health and your terror. So, if your HP drops all the way down to this slot here, it says dying right here, and it's red. You are then going to receive a "You Are Dying" card. Now, this card once you hit 0, you don't die, but you receive this card, and on the back of it, it's going to basically lay out the terms of your death and say, hey, you have another chance, but you can't do X, you can't do Y. If Z happens, you'll die forever. So once you hit 0 right here, you'll get this "You Are Dying" card. Once you heal up somehow in the game and you get off of the dying section, this card then will go away. But if you go back down to 0, you get it back again, so on and so forth. So there are actually 5 copies of this card in the box. 4 of them will say co-op right down here. So those 4 that say co-op, you want to use that when you're playing with multiple people. If it doesn't say co-op here, it is meant for solo play. The reason being, the solo play conditions on the back of this card are actually a lot more lenient for solo players rather than when you're in a party, because when you're in a party you have more chances to save yourself through help of your other teammates and things like that. So make sure you're using the right "You Are Dying" card. Once again, it'll say co-op under here. If you're playing with multiple people, it'll say nothing for a solo if you're playing solo like this card is. Now, last thing about this track for now is your terror. Terror is the opposite of your health. Instead of going down, if your terror reaches up into here, into the 5 and 6 range, it says "Going Insane" right here. If you ever enter this section with your terror, you will then receive a "You Are Going Insane" card. Just kind of like the "You Are Dying" card, this will lay out kind of the terms of what's going to happen to you when you go insane. There'll be negative effects, and there'll be, you can't do X, you can't do Y, and if you do Z, you will go insane officially and basically die. There are 4 copies of the "You Are Going Insane" card. There is no difference between the co-op and the solo play "You Are Going Insane" cards. Okay, so all set there. So we covered this section pretty well, so we're going to take these out for now. The next thing you want to do when you're setting up your character is on the back of your character tile, you'll get a little bit of flavor text about your character, but it'll also tell you your starting attributes for your character and also their starting resources. So let's fill out our let's fill out his attributes here real quick. So if you notice on the card here, he will it matches up with these 3 symbols on the sides right there. So for example, right here it says he's going to get 2 aggression, 1 courage, 1 practicality, no empathy, 1 caution, and no spirituality. So that kind of gives you a hint as to what kind of character he is. He's more of an aggressive type of a character. He's not really focused on, he doesn't have any empathy or spirituality, but he is cautious like a warrior should be. So basically you just need to fill these out now. Like I said, he gets 2 aggression. He he gets 1 courage, 1 practicality, and 1 caution. Now, what these attributes are going to do for your character is they are going to be a huge influence in your combat, in your diplomacy encounters. It'll basically determine what type of combat cards you can play, what type of diplomatic cards you can play, and they'll also influence what happens on the adventure. So for example, you could visit a village, you could explore it, and it could be like, hey, one of the options when you explore this town is you can go help these people. You can, become a healer and help them out. And then it'll have requirements on it. Like, example, it'll say, hey, if you want to go heal them, help them out, heal them or whatever, you have to have, a certain amount of empathy or a certain amount of spirituality in order to do that action. So in the example I gave, my character doesn't have any empathy, meaning that he won't be able to go to do that certain exploration. So these attributes here are very important and good to keep track of. Later in the game, you'll be able to increase them. You'll be able to get more caution or actually get a little empathy, and so on and so forth. And I'll explain that in another video as well. The other important thing is that there is also a starting resource section right here. This shows how much you get of the 5 resources down here. So for example, we get 3 food, so we're just going to slot 3 food into his little food section, and then he also gets 1 wealth right here. So just a quick rundown here. I'm just going to move these for now. A quick rundown of these different types of resources. You're going to be consuming food once a day, hopefully, and that's going to increase your health, it's going to increase your energy, and it's going to keep you alive. Wealth, obviously, use that to buy items and things like that. Your reputation is basically shows how well you're known among the people, and that can have a really big influence on if they're going to trust you and certain events that you can do. Experience points is how you're going to upgrade your character. You will spend these experience points to get more practicality or to get more empathy or to get extra skill cards. Like I said, I'll explain that just a little bit later. Magic will help you in combat and diplomacy encounters, and basically all of these, I think, except experience and reputation. Don't quote me on this, actually. So here, just scratch that. So also, along with these resources and what they do individually, your food, wealth, and your magic will also be used in the story to pay for these statues called menhirs, and I'll explain what those are a little bit. Though I assume that if you're watching this, you do have a basic understanding of how this game works. So, like I said, food, wealth, and magic are going to help you activate menhirs and be able to continue your story. Okay, cool. So we have our terror, energy, and our HP set up. We have all of our resources set up. We have our attributes all lined up. Our character board is now finished. We are ready to go. So we're going to move this up here. The next important thing we got to work on is we have to get our character's starting diplomacy deck and his combat deck. So here I got a stack of all the cards. I'm gonna try and not show a ton off because I don't want to spoil anybody, but I have these nice and separated here. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to find your character's starting combat deck and diplomacy deck. So I'm going to show a couple cards. I apologize if this upsets anyone due to spoilers, but if you look here, so this is the name of the card, and and I'm going to go through a video explaining what all these symbols mean and all that jazz. But the way you determine which cards are a part of your character's starting deck is this little banner attached that is right under the name. If you notice, I'm just going to go through a couple other cards. Each card that has these little banners belongs in your starter deck, and your starter combat deck contains 15 cards. So go through all of the. Oh, another note. The combat and diplomacy cards your character are going to use will also match the color of their character board. So, for example, Bjor here has all this blue around his character tile, and the color of the combat card is blue as well. So these correspond with him. If you're this character, you wouldn't be using the blue cards, you'd be using the green ones. Okay? Let's see. So yeah, go through, find the 15 blue cards if you're playing Bior like me, and that'll be your starting combat deck, and they all say combat on the back of it. Same thing with your diplomacy starter deck. There's also going to be a blue banner right here if you're playing Bior. So go through and find those 15 cards, and they'll all say diplomacy on the back. Another note, if you look down in the bottom right corner, this little letter down here will tell you what color this card belongs to. So U representing blue. So if you go through, all the blue cards will have a U on the bottom of the card. And that'll change depending on the color of it. You know, the green one will say G, and so on and so forth. So now that we have our 15 starter combat and diplomacy decks, all with the little banner, we can start creating our advanced pool of diplomacy and combat cards. So there's going to be 2 types of cards in this deck that are visibly easy to see. So first off, any card that has your character's name above it, just right here, is going to go into your advanced diplomacy or combat pool. Okay, so there should be, I think there's 15 cards that have his name at the top of it. So all of those are going to go in your advanced diplomacy pool. The other thing is, there's also, oops, sorry, apologies for that. Let me readjust just for a second. So the other thing is, any card that looks like your starter, the starter card, but it doesn't have a banner right here, those are also going to go into your advanced diplomacy deck or combat deck. And these are the cards that are more like generic. They're not specifically for your character. They're just kind of general moves, but the ones that have your character's name at the top are like kind of like signature moves for them. So, and your advanced pool is what you're going to use to improve your combat and diplomacy starter decks, and I'll get into how that works a little later. Same thing with the combat. Like I said, if it has your character's name at the top, or there's no banner, it'll go into your combat advancement pool. Okay? So we have our character tray set up with their starting stats, also their starting attributes, and their resources, your starter combat and diplomacy deck, and your advanced diplomacy and advanced combat decks as well. Okay? That's basically everything you need to get set up. 2 small minor things I wanted to show you. Every character comes with a letter that you will want to read at the very beginning of your adventure. This is a letter that was written to your character by kind of their master. For example, Bior, he received this letter from the master blacksmith that he was an apprentice for. And this kind of explains, just gives you a little background on your character and what their mission is. So make sure you read that before you start your game. Another small minor thing is on your character board, you're going to be gaining a lot of food, a lot of wealth, and these little trays are all going to fill up pretty quickly. I think each of these little trays can fit 6 of these red cubes, which represent 1. You also receive these purple cubes in your game. You use these to replace 5 of the red cubes so that you can use more of them. So for example, your food section, if it gets all filled up, you can swap out 5 of them for 1 purple. That way you can just fit more into it. Alright guys, I think that's everything we're going to cover for now. That's how you set up your character for your first adventure. Thank you for joining me here. My next video, we're going to go over kind of the rest of the components of the game. All the cards and some of the miniatures and things like that, and kind of explain what their purpose is. And then we'll continue onward with explanation of the rules. Thanks for joining me. Hope you guys have a great time playing this game. I've been playing it pretty regularly and having a ton of fun. So thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you around. Bye.